pleasure to be back on the show with you. And as I listened to the introduction, common sense for the Commonwealth. If I may, sir, how about common sense for the country? And maybe you can get a national program here. And congratulations on your new time slot. I'm happy for you, proud of you, and I think it's well deserved.
Okay, you heard it right here on K-Talk 1650. Congressman Rigell's recommendation. We go national. Common sense for the country. We're taking this right to that.
An interview. I mean, listen, at least for that, throw me a few softballs here, John.
We'll definitely throw you a bone here. No doubt about it. We thank you for the promo. Congressman Rigell says, go national. And, okay, we're going to be all over that one, Congressman. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for fighting a good fight up there in D.C. And I know you've been all over this, the effort to create jobs in the state of Virginia nationally and in Southeast Virginia specifically. Can you share with our listeners, Congressman, some of the major things that you've been involved in recently to get our people back to work that don't have jobs?
Yes, the number one mission that I'm on is to increase employment through moving America toward energy independence. It accomplishes so many things, John. It employs hardworking Americans, so many of whom of our neighbors and friends are hurting because of our failure to put the right policies in place to unleash our job creators, our entrepreneurs. It also makes us a more secure country. And when I hear the president say that he's an all-of-the-above president on energy, I truly, John, I think I was the first one to leap to my feet in the State of the Union address. But sadly and frustratingly, his words, his rhetoric, truly, John, do not reconcile with reality. He's got a full moratorium off the coast of Virginia on our energy, and so I introduced a bill that is similar to, not quite the same, I think ours is a bit better, it's similar to what Senators Warner and Webb introduced, and we're going to work with them to reconcile the differences. We think our map's a bit better, but to work through that so that we can really force the president's hand on this and get about 18,000 jobs. That's what the best estimate is for Hampton Roads, 18,000. And that's kind of a big picture. There are other items, but that's the big picture for our district on a smaller scale, but nonetheless rewarding for me was that my first bill that got passed, we've had bills pass in the subcommittee level and amendments, but this was the first bill to pass on the House floor, removed unneeded deed restriction in Accomack County in the northern end of the district on the eastern shore,
right,
and it frees up that wonderful county to move forward with a much-needed business park. Should create about 300 jobs. And, John, I'll stop right there. There's lots of other things, but that's kind of a big picture and also a district-specific example of what we're doing.
So, Congressman, one, we want to congratulate you on that, because 18,300 jobs in our region, although, in the big picture of things that might not make a dent in the numbers, but for the 18,300 people that would get those jobs that are unemployed right now, it's a life-changing opportunity for them.
John, as you were speaking, those truly are the two words that have come to mind, and I think about it so often. Could you imagine that husband who comes home and says, look, I've got that job, or the wife who comes home and says, honey, I've got that job? It truly is life-changing, and that's why I really don't concede the moral high ground to the president. When he said, I don't doubt that he cares about employment. I think he gets up trying to create jobs, but I truly think because of his background and some of the core principles and beliefs that he holds, he really is confused about the matter, and energy is a great example. Look, we have the labor unions right with us in terms of the XL pipeline. They were saying, Mr. President, let us build this wonderful pipeline. And the president said no. I think he caved to some over-extreme environmentalists. And John, I said publicly, I truly consider myself to be an environmentalist.
Right.
I care deeply about our Chesapeake Bay, our water, our air, our soil. I just don't see job creation and caring for our environment is mutually exclusive.
No, they're actually, I think, as some of the things that you've done, you've been able to easily reconcile the two, and essentially one hand goes with the other. And the one comment you made, I want to agree with, because we all give our fair share of criticism to President Obama, and I, like you, I don't doubt for a minute that he wants to do the right thing. He wants to get people back to work, but quite frankly, so did Karl Marx. He wanted to get everybody a job also with the Communist Manifesto. It just doesn't work. So the philosophy, the ideology is the issue, and there's no question right now that based on the results we've had, the Obama left-wing liberal government intervention policies have just failed, as they have throughout history. Now, why don't we shift for a second to the time that we have and go to our defense budget. The administration obviously trying to make massive cutbacks in that, some of which will undoubtedly impact our region as we're so economically dependent on the military. Share with our listeners, Congressman, what your position is on that and how you're trying to resolve it.
Well, the first duty of the federal government is to protect and defend the American people, and the president's budget is one matter. We can maybe circle back around to that, John, but I'd like to point out really to all of the listeners today, because I think every person needs to fully understand this, is that there's a far more really insidious and harmful moment that's coming up to us, and that's in January. If what is referred to as sequestration comes into effect, it can be avoided. It should not happen. Basically, it is what I refer to as a violent reduction in our defense budget, and Secretary Panetta, the President's own Secretary of Defense, Secretary Panetta, has made it very clear that it's really an unconscionable act. It's irresponsible. It just must not happen. And yet, the President has said that he will veto any legislation that would forego sequestration. And so it's like I almost think of it as the administration as being bipolar on this issue. They've got to reconcile this. The Secretary of Defense is saying this cannot happen, and then the President is saying, I'll veto any legislation that prohibits it from moving forward. That's an irreconcilable, well, on the face of it, it needs to be reconciled, and the President needs to lead and to work with Congress to come up with a path that would prevent sequestration and do it in short order.
So how do you see that playing out?
Well, it really is going to be, sadly, John, it is going to be a post-election decision. I do not understand, nor do I agree with the calendar of Washington. Everything seems to take a crisis, a deadline, a finite deadline, a fixed deadline, where we almost go off the cliff. It just is, it's harmful to our nation. I truly don't think it's necessary. It's brinksmanship, and I have been very forthright and vocal within my own party and when my own conference is saying our calendar must reflect the challenges, really the profound challenges facing our country. I think we should be in session. I think that the Senate should be in session passing a budget, which, of course, as you know, hasn't happened over 1,100 days now.
Right.
It's just, we've got to do what's right for the country, John. And the President, I really feel that if you look at the not the three branches, it's two branches, but the legislature divided into the two houses, I really believe that the Republican-led House of Representatives, imperfect as we are, have done a really good job of moving forward good legislation. We're passing bills, many of them bipartisan, including my bill on the Wallace Research Park, which was a real encouragement to me. And coincidentally, it got picked up the next day by Senator Warner. He introduced the identical bill in the Senate, and I hadn't even asked him to do that. And I was really pleased to see him do that. But we
It's just so frustrating that we get so many authentically legitimate bills passed in the House, and then they just go nowhere when they get to Harry Reid's desk. Now, Congressman, talk to us a little bit about Obamacare. Last week we had the hearings. There's a lot of speculation right now based on the line of questioning and some of President Obama's lobbying comments that there's a good chance that 5 or 6 of these justices may strike the mandate down. If that indeed does happen, what is your position? What will be the status of the Affordable Care Act?
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, it depends entirely upon the scope of the ruling of the Supreme Court. If the scope is so broad that says the entire law must be rejected, then we have even at this point, we have a massive unwinding to do, because the wheels and the regulations were just spinning out. The printer, I'm sure, was smoking, with all the regulations and that emanated and came from that bill, and we're still coming from that bill. Or, of course, as you know, it could be a partial, which could be to repeal the mandate itself, which I truly believe is unconstitutional, and I think that it was very telling. We don't know how he's going to vote, but when Justice Kennedy said that the mandate fundamentally changes the relationship between the individual and the federal government, I thought that was instructive, and for Justice Kennedy to really pause and be troubled by that. Our friends who are liberals or would consider themselves to be that, I trust that we need to slow down and look at the merits of the constitutional case here. And I would like to think some of our friends who self-describe themselves as more liberal would see, wait a minute, this really is the improper, unconstitutional intrusion of the federal government into the lives and affairs and daily activities and the rights of ordinary Americans.
I'm going to bow to Representative Rigell's wishes to have me call him Scott, so I will say, Scott.
Thank you. Not to remind Jonathan back in.
So, Scott, can you hang on for a minute? We got some traffic to take care of, a little business. Can you hang with us for one more second?
I'd be honored to, sure. I appreciate the opportunity to connect with the district and with each of you.
You are fabulous. Scott Rigell, representing the 2nd District in Congress, right here on our program with the John Fredericks Show, Common Sense for the Commonwealth. You can call in to 454-1650, 454-1650. Quick break, and we'll take a look at traffic and weather with Randy Alexander.
Oh, so much to look at. I don't know where it's all coming from today.
A little time.
That's right. And we've got 664 at Pewsville, still a lot of traffic. We had an accident out there earlier, and that's now out of the way, but the traffic lingers on. And all the way to about Portsmouth Boulevard, you're going to find quite a slowdown there. Also, congestion 64 westbound at Enterprise Circle, just right in that vicinity. And then again, 64 westbound at George Washington Highway. 64 eastbound, the busy stuff is at Greenbrier Parkway, and it stays busy past the 464 interchange and past Bainbridge Boulevard. Downtown tunnel eastbound is past Frederick right now, and westbound almost to Ballantyne, so still pretty busy for this time of the day, but the Midtown tunnel looking a little bit better now. You got minor delays there with about a mile slowdown in each direction. Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel also starting to look a little bit better eastbound. Settlers Landing will slow you down, and there's a big curve right there, and there's a vehicle, you'll see it as you come around the curve in the right shoulder. It's not affecting traffic, and if you keep your eyes open, it won't. Westbound, we have some busy traffic starting around 4th View. Not too bad at all there. High-rise bridge still about 6 miles eastbound. Slow down. Weather-wise, we're going to keep these clouds and a chance of showers tonight and tomorrow morning. By tomorrow afternoon, we'll see some sunshine, partly sunny. Tonight's lows in the upper 40s. Tomorrow we'll get near 60 degrees, and tomorrow night near 40. Buckle up and drive. I'm Randy Alexander with your traffic and weather together on the John Fredericks Show on K-Talk 1650.
Get up, stand up, get up, don't give up the fight. You're right. Get up, stand up.
Common Sense for the Commonwealth with the John Fredericks Show on K-Talk 1650.
Hi, I'm Ralph Carowin, head of Stonebridge School. Every parent wants to educate their child in mind.
Come back in the district starting April 16th. You're going to set that dial to 1650, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. when we move to a.m. Congressman, you've done a lot of work trying to protect the veterans of Southeast Virginia. Can you share with our audience some of the things right now that you're trying to do to ensure that our veterans are getting a fair shake?
Well, John, there is truly a 1% and a 99%, however you want to look at that. On the economic side, that's another discussion, but irrefutably there is, and when it comes to defending our country, it's actually less than 1% are defending the other 99. And guys of my generation, I served in the reserves. I didn't serve at active duty, but guys of my generation, I'm 51 years old. You ask most men and women who volunteered around that time and even before, and even after, when we were 18, 20, 25 years old, basically there was an assumption and really a promise, either expressed or implied. There's some disagreement over that, but certainly implied by recruiters across the country that, hey, you served 20 years, healthcare for life, John, healthcare for life, Scott. Okay, well, look, I'll be deployed all over the world. I'll miss vacations. I'll miss birthdays. I'll miss births of my children. I'll miss anniversaries. People may shoot at me. I may not come home in the same condition, or I may not make it at all. That's kind of the things that our veterans are processing. But hey, wait a minute. I go 20 years, healthcare for life. Well, this administration comes along and says, hey, you've got some acute budget pressures. They really don't want to address entitlement reform at all. No courage there. And I call them out on it. What do they want to do? Swing over there and say, oh, veterans, look, we know what we said, but we don't like that deal. We'll just start charging you more. And I told Secretary Gates, now it's Panetta, but then I think I've been in office about a month. I was in the House Armed Services Committee hearing, and I said, Mr. Secretary, this is nothing less than a breach of trust. And those are serious words to me, John. And I think they are with all Americans. And so I've strongly opposed the increases, doing everything I can to rally other members to stop this increase in TRICARE. It's wrong, and I object to it. Also, just in terms of employment for our veterans, I just introduced a bill called the More for Vets and Less for Jets. There are tax loopholes out there, John, and I am a Republican.
More for vets, less for jets. Hey, that would be a bad deal for State Senator John Miller, but we're not going to go there.
I'll set that aside. But this is more for vets and less for jets, and basically, we just got depreciation back to where it was before the stimulus on corporate jets. Actually, the president supported this move, and it's one thing where I agree with him on, and if I do find an area where I agree with him on, I say so. And basically, it ensures a funding stream for the tax credit for those who are hiring our veterans. I'm always a little suspect of set-asides for one group or another, but in this case, I think it's entirely appropriate because it is difficult to transition back into civilian life, and I feel really good about that bill. It has bipartisan support as well.
Congressman, what was former Defense Secretary Gates' response to your query?
Well, I tell you, it's on YouTube, it's on C-SPAN, and basically what he said is, Congressman, we never said that we would never change this. And I just went right back. I really went right back, round and round with him on this, because I just look. I know what so many believed and were promised, and at a minimum, John, I would say that the Department of Defense, at the minimum, did not make clear, and basically it had a proactive responsibility to do a full disclosure. It's more of a business term, but they should have fully disclosed it. And every time someone wanted to re-enlist, they should have said, now look, you need to make sure now you understand that if you may sign up for another 4 years, that'll put you at 8 or 12 or 16 or 20, but you need to understand that this doesn't mean that you're going to get free health care the rest of your life. That was never, ever, ever said. And when I talk to veterans across the 2nd District and really across Hampton Roads, and it's just clear.
Well, it's just
overwhelmingly, they're saying, Scott, you're right.
No doubt. I mean, it's changing the deal in the middle of the game, and but I think your response on that is spot on. If they wanted to say that, you know, this might not be there, and then you make the decision, that would be one thing. But as you pointed out, that was not the way that it was laid down to those that
John,
forces.
You're right. I was raised by an Iwo Jima Marine. In fact, he just returned from a trip back to Iwo Jima after 67 years, deeply moving. But my father, Ike Rigell, taught me that, Scott, if you know, your yes is a yes, your no is a no. Be careful what you promise and deliver on that. Don't waver. And if you made a bad deal, you know, you honor it and then make sure you learn from that. Now, certainly, healthcare for life was not a bad deal, but it was something that we agreed to as a nation. And if we want to say, gosh, maybe we can't afford that going forward, maybe we need to look at benefits for those coming in the military now. Look, I'm open to a study on that. I'm open to a study that might say, well, maybe retirement age should be 2 years of service, not 20. Well, we can talk about that. I didn't say I'd agree to it, but we can talk about it. But to go back retroactively and change it is a breach of trust.
There's absolutely no question. Ken?
Scott, we got. Do you have time for one call real quick before we cut you loose?
I do have one call, but I actually have an appointment. I've got to be at 6, and I've got to leave. But I'd love to take a bit. I'd love to connect with the district, and I'd love to take a call.
Okay, Joseph in Suffolk. We'll ask Joseph to keep it kind of quick. Joseph in Suffolk, you're on with Scott Rigell.
The first time I remember ever this happened to the military was in the late 70s when you were able to retire when you were 15, after 15 years, and all of a sudden, overnight, it was like, no, you got to be in 20 years. This isn't the first time it's happened. That's when it all first started. Okay, I'm hanging up.
Thanks, Joseph.
I'm sure maybe there is precedent for some of this, but I'm fighting it at this point. I'm joined by so many, and it really isn't the first place that we should go. It just isn't, and I don't think it's America at its best, and that's what I'm fighting for. And I appreciate the caller. I really appreciate, gentlemen. John, thanks so much for having me on the show. And common sense for the Commonwealth, that sounds good. Common sense for the country, that sounds even better.
Hey, Congressman, just before you take off, if I could switch gears for a second, you're also running a re-election campaign. For those of our audience that want to get involved with your campaign or find out more information, how do they do that? Where do they go?
ScottRigell.com, John, and it's the last name is a little unusual. It's R-I-G-E-L-L. R-I-G-E-L-L. ScottRigell.com, and I appreciate you giving me that opportunity to share that with the listeners today. And I'd appreciate them going on the website and learning more about why I'm running and seeking the privilege to, again, serve the district. So thank you, John.
All right, Congressman Scott Rigell, Representative 2nd District. He's a Republican doing a bang-up job in there. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely, we appreciate it. And we got some business to take care of here. Coming up, seeking the position of mayor for the city of Chesapeake, Bernie Mansfield is in our studio. We'll talk to Bernie and find out